This is the newsroom for Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, the International Office for Migration says the over 30,000 Venezuelans in Guyana need easier access to work permits. The Ministry of Health is now leading towards administering the first set of COVID-19 vaccines to the elderly population and persons with underlying conditions instead of frontline workers.
We are leaning more towards having the elderly and also persons who have comorbidities.
The Sex Work Coalition says the growing migrant sex worker population in Guyana needs help. An ex-GDF soldier is jailed for 30 years for killing an 8-month-old baby boy by burning him to death. And in sport, CWI officials impressed with COVID-19 protocols in Bangladesh ahead of upcoming tour. With the news, I'm Kurt Campbell. We're glad you can join us. First up, the International Office for Migration IMO is calling for simpler systems to be put in place for Venezuelan migrants here to access work permits in order for them to be employed without being exploited and becoming victims of human trafficking. With an estimation of over 30,000 Venezuelans in Guyana, Project Officer of the IMO, Montserrat Hernandez, told the newsroom that migrants will be able to make more contributions to the local economy if their rights as workers are protected.
Persons, for example, even if they have a 3 months stay permit, which makes them to be in a regular situation in Guyana, they do not have access to work permits. So this makes it hard for them to access a formal job. And then, of course, this puts them at more risk of being victims of exploitation, of human trafficking. So this is something that it's on discussions. Again, the government is very open to discuss about this and about how a response can be tailored in order to support, because that also makes migrants able to contribute more to the society, right? Because when you get rights, you get responsibilities as well. So this is something that, again, the government is open to discussion, and I think that it's another step that we would like to see happening maybe. I mean, there's a procedure, so migrants need to go and apply for the procedures. You need also to have your employer, or let's say like a sponsor, that you are going to hire migrants. But of course, this means a lot of bureaucracy, documentation. So I think it's a two-way issue, because we need also to do some awareness with the host community, with private actors, private enterprises, even so that they can hire migrants, and they do in the right way.
The IMO is currently implementing a project across the Caribbean and Latin America in response to the Venezuelan migrant situation. Some of the activities have been stymied due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but through this project, the organization provides food, hygiene kits, and other items to the migrants. The IMO, which is funded by the United Nations, also provides grants for the migrants to start their own businesses, along with providing online training to ensure the businesses are sustainable. The IMO lauded Guyana's flexible immigration policies, which allow Venezuelans to settle in the country at a time when countries like Trinidad are deporting them. Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony on Wednesday revealed that the government is leaning towards administering the first set of COVID-19 vaccines to the elderly population and persons with serious underlying health conditions. The minister had initially stated that frontline workers would be the first to receive the vaccine once it is made available to Guyana. From March to date, Guyana has recorded 151 COVID-19 deaths, of which the majority are elderly patients and persons with comorbidities. Isanella Patwa reports.
Guyana will be accessing its COVID-19 vaccines through COVAX, an alliance including the World Health Organization (WHO). Guyana will first be receiving vaccines equal to 3% of its population, followed by another tranche, which will equate to 17% of its population. But even though COVAX has asked the countries to prioritize healthcare and other frontline workers in the first dosage of the vaccine, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony revealed in Wednesday's COVID-19 update that the elderly and persons with comorbidities are more at risk.
Now, with COVAX, what they're planning to do is to ensure that every country, sometime next year, would get about doses for about 20% of their population, of which we would start getting the first 3%, and they're asking countries to prioritize that 3% more towards frontline workers, which would include the healthcare workers and perhaps other persons who are constantly engaging the public. So the first 3% would go to those persons, and then the other 17%, it is yet to be determined. But in our context, we are leaning more towards having the elderly and also persons who have comorbidities, because these are the persons more at risk.
The health minister explained that COVAX has made progress in acquiring the vaccines and has already sent documentation for the government to start the process of accessing the vaccine. At the same time, the ministry has commenced preparation for the rollout of the vaccine when it becomes available.
While we're working with them to access the vaccine, we have also started work locally, which include looking at our vaccination sites and improving our cold storage, expanding that cold storage. In some cases, we have to add new storage rooms and things like that. We have also started acquiring the types of freezers that we'll need for the vaccines. So we have been in that process of procurement to get those freezers.
A procurement process is also ongoing for specialized freezers to store the vaccines, while a manual is being developed to train healthcare workers to administer the vaccine. Two U.S. companies, Pfizer and Moderna, have announced successful trials for their vaccines. The BBC on Wednesday reported that the UK has become the first country in the world to approve the Pfizer vaccine, paving the way for mass vaccination. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
Two companies are looking to set up modern dairy farms in Guyana from January 2021. Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Office for Investment, GoInvest, Peter Ramsrup, recently told the newsroom that one of the companies is from Guyana while the other is US-based. The businessman spoke of several other investors who are looking to build solar and wind farms to contribute to Guyana's renewable energy needs. The CEO said the infrastructural developments to come on stream in the next 5 years will make Guyana unrecognizable.
Well, one company already have ordered their equipment due in January. So they are looking to the pasteurization of milk right here. So that's a local company that has already made that order. So they're now working their investment packages up for us to look at what concessions are available from government. The other one is a US company that are now starting their process in looking to where they want to set up a large, because they're not only going to the dairy plant, they're doing the cattle themselves. So you're bringing in thousands of head of cattle for supply chain for the dairy plant. So those are all good opportunities. And the president talks about bringing energy costs down in 3 years through the hydro, through the gas to shore pipeline. And so investors, at this point, our energy cost is high. But as you develop your product line, your manufacturing, dairy plant, whatever it is, as energy cost comes down, then you become much more competitive. And the president's target is to get that energy cost down in 3 years, bring the gas to shore, get the renewable energy with Amalia connecting, and you have an integrated energy plant through solar, hydro, wind, and fossil fuel. Again, it creates an excitement for the future of Guyana. And you have to start now looking at where you fit and where we fit and where companies fit. And how do you partner with foreign companies, or how do you expand your local companies? You wouldn't recognize Guyana in 5 years. But, we can't sit back and see it happen. We got to be part of that development. And that's what the president wants to see, wants us to be part. And if you just look, recently, we got to thank our healthcare workers for what they've done through COVID-19, and the president is rewarding with a small bonus. But it's his vision to make sure our people working hard is taken care of.
When the newsroom returns, the Sex Work Coalition says the growing migrant sex worker population in Guyana needs help. And an ex-GDF soldier is jailed for 30 years for killing an 8-month-old baby boy by burning him to death. Stay tuned. You're watching the newsroom. We tell you now that a former Guyana Defense Force soldier was on Wednesday sentenced to serve 30 years imprisonment with the possibility of parole after serving 25 years for the murder of an 8-month-old Romain Set, who was burned to death after an arsonist torched his Fort Field, Caneville, East Bank, Demerara home in 2017. 24-year-old Nigel Dotson, called Little Man, also of Caneville, was on trial before Justice Sandal Kassoon at the High Court for the capital offence of murder, which he denied. Dotson was represented by attorney at law Adrian Thompson, while the state was represented by prosecutor Nafisa Beg. The jury, after deliberating for over 2 hours on Wednesday, found Dotson guilty of the offence, which read that on January 23, 2017 at Caneville, he murdered Seth in the course or furtherance of an arson. Attorney Thompson, during his plea in mitigation, asked the court to consider Dotson's age when he committed the act, noting that he can be rehabilitated. Prosecutor Beg, however, asked the court to place weight on the fact that the crime was premeditated by Dotson, which led to the death of the toddler. Beg described Dotson as a menace to society and noted that prior to the crime, he had threatened the toddler's grandmother. There is a growing migrant sex worker population in Guyana, and the organization that represents them, the Guyana Sex Worker Coalition, says help is needed to protect the migrant sex workers from gender-based violence, stigma, and discrimination. Bibi Katoon reports.
Executive Director of the Guyana Sex Work Coalition, Miriam Adams, is urging the authorities in Guyana to offer protection against violence, stigma, and discrimination to what she says is a growing migrant sex worker population in Guyana. Edwards said work is already being done by the GSWC with the help of UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency. This began in March 2020, with plans to continue in 2021.
About the challenges where funding is a problem, and that's a big problem for the Sex Work Coalition. Our work that we do is basically around sex work, whether it's male, female, transgender, or migrant sex workers, we work with them.
Edwards made a special appeal to the National AIDS Program Secretariat NAPS to look for ways in which they can support the migrant sex work population.
There's a real high level of violence, and a lot more work need to be done in these areas with these migrant sex workers. And let me tell you, they're there. And we have to look at it in depth because they're going away. By 2021, 22, 23, 24, continuously, we will have more sex workers coming into Guyana, and we will have to work with them if we want to keep HIV under control. So I think that the National AIDS Program Secretariat through the Ministry of Health should be looking at these migrant sex workers.
Edwards said the Sex Work Coalition has done work with migrant sex workers along the coastline in Region 4 and several interior locations in Regions 1, 6, 7, and 8. The support to these sex workers, as Edwards explained, includes protection from stigma and discrimination, HIV testing, placing them in safe places, but most importantly, protection against violence. Edwards noted that sex workers are a high target for gender-based violence, with 60 current document cases being investigated, but there are almost 100 undocumented cases, which include persons who have opted not to follow through with the police investigations. While she could not provide confirmation statistics on the migrant sex worker population in Guyana, Edwards noted that it includes persons from Venezuela mostly, but also Cubans and Brazilians.
We recognize that there's a lot of sex workers, migrants, and local sex workers is a high target for gender-based violence, high target, especially the migrant sex workers. We have 50 cases and more, but 50 documented cases. If we was to document all the cases with some persons before not to continue, with the case, we would meet about 100 cases of violence against sex workers, the migrant sex workers, especially in the interior areas.
During the pandemic, sex workers have benefited from HIV testing, condom, and hamper distribution. Edwards said she has several persons on her team who speak both English and Spanish and have been able to successfully address the language barrier. While the pandemic has affected the work of the Sex Work Coalition, innovative methods were employed to reach the population during the pandemic. Bibi Katone, Newsroom.
The government, with assistance from the International Office for Migration (IMO), is working to update the current trafficking in persons legislation. One of the critical areas which will be updated deals with how convicted traffickers should pay their victims for any suffering they endured while in captivity. Speaking with the Newsroom recently, Project Officer of IMO Oliver Prophet said the old legislation did not specify how restitution should be paid to the victims.
There's a victim impact statement that is done, and that victim impact statement kind of spells out, it kind of gives an understanding of the cost of what was dealt to or what was conceded by the victim. So that allows for a kind of a calculation. But for me to explain the whole process, I'm not able to. But I know that there's a calculation that goes into it that involves the Combating the Trafficking in Persons Unit, that involves a prosecutor, that would require approval by the court to say that this is the number based on the amount of damage that was done mentally, physically, financially to the victim, and that would have to be paid to the victim by the perpetrator upon conviction.
The IMO is also working with the government to update the standard operating procedures when dealing with human trafficking victims and ensuring their protection. Under the new procedures, the victims will be given 10 days to consider whether they want to participate in the investigations. Still ahead on the Newsroom, the governments of Suriname and Guyana are still finalizing the health protocols to accommodate the reopening of the ferry service, and a popular Jamaican DJ opens a recording studio in Port Royal. Thank you for staying with us. The MV Sandaka will be used as the replacement vessel for the MV Kanawama as Guyana finalizes the health protocol for the reopening of the Guyana-Suriname ferry service. Minister of Public Works Juan Egel, during an interview with the Newsroom on Wednesday, said it is hoped that the vessel will make numerous trips per day once the service resumes on December 12. The minister explained that the protocol for leaving and entering both countries is currently being established. The MV Kanawama will be taken to the dry docks in Paramaribo, Suriname for repairs, and the cost will be shared through a joint effort between the two countries. Minister Egel said the replacement of the bottom of the vessel was recommended as it had been sitting on mud for the past months.
Guyana has recently named its board for the Kanawama joint venture, as well as the Kanawama Management Committee, in keeping with its articles of incorporation. On Friday the 11th, both groups of directors will be meeting with their Surinamese counterparts at Molson Creek and in South Drain, Suriname. And after those meetings, the very next day, the Quarantine River crossing should resume. The vessel Kanawama is currently not in service. The agreement is that the Surinamese authorities will move the vessel from Naikeri to the dry docks in Paramaribo, Suriname. Once it is in the dry docks, the Director General of the Guyana Maritime Administration, who is also a surveyor, will travel to Suriname along with his Surinamese counterparts, inspect the vessel, and put up a report on what needs to be done. The Board of Directors will decide on the way forward and how the costs will be shared, arrangements.
Can you say at this time what is the issue with the vessel?
Our understanding is that it has been so long on the mud flats, so to speak, that it is advisable that it should be, the bottom of the vessel should be the hull, and the bottom should be examined. And that is why it's going to the dry docks.
So there's no mechanical issue with the vessel at this point?
My understanding is that the engines have been changed, refurbished, or whatever was needed, and it's operational. In the interim, the motor barge MB Sandaka that is from the Guyana Transport and Harbors Department, will move to the Quarantine River to facilitate the movement of people across the Quarantine River. While the MB Sandaka is in service, the board of directors will look at ways and means of a private sector engagement on both sides that will allow for continuation of this service. The ministers of health of both Guyana and Suriname are currently engaging in finalizing the protocols that will be implemented at both sides of the border. Those protocols, once finalized, which we hope will be done before the end of this week, will be publicized so that all passengers and persons desirous of traveling between Guyana and Suriname using the Quarantine River will be advised of what needs to be done before boarding and when disembarking in the various territories.
The Ministry of Health on Wednesday recorded 26 new COVID-19 cases from 259 tests, taking the total overall number of confirmed cases to 5,449. Region 10 recorded 50 new cases as health authorities are monitoring a spike in cases within the region over the last few days. The other positive cases were recorded in Regions 1, 2, and 9 with 1 case each. Region 3 recorded 2 new cases, while Region 4 recorded 6 new cases. According to the ministry's dashboard, 94 more persons recovered, taking the overall number of recoveries to 4,530. There are 726 patients in home isolation, 39 in institutional isolation, and 3 patients are in the COVID-19 intensive care unit. An additional 35 persons who came into contact with the positive patients are in institutional quarantine. To date, 151 persons have died. Touted as the entertainment boss from Clarendon, Jamaica, Bobby Cush will open doors to his new recording studio located at Port Join on the west coast of Demerara on Thursday. The studio, which will be managed by Bobby Cush Entertainment, promises a new era for Guyanese artists who have struggled for years with just a few recording studios. Cush says he brings to Guyana a wealth of knowledge and experience and hopes to put Guyanese artists on the world stage, not only for the fame but also to make a living off of music. Although led by the Jamaican, the business employs several Guyanese, including Cush co-manager Collis Belgraves. They both spoke to the newsroom about what the business means for the community of Port Join, Guyana, and the wider Caribbean region.
There's days where I feel like, yo, I can't gonna move, brother. Trust me, I can't gonna move. Like, I feel like just literally give up. But then I have to pat myself on the shoulder. Yo, bro, you gotta live up to it. Never stop, never flop. And a day like this, Bobby Cush Entertainment. Well, Bobby Cush is an entertainer from Clarendon, Jamaica. You know, but grew up in our community in the ghetto, right? I was surrounded by music, right? Where my family, like my father, he had a sound system. My uncle was a DJ, my other uncle was a DJ. So it was always music. Something about Guyana. It felt like home. It gave me that vibe, like the culture is similar, right? And for Port Join is a place where it's lively. But something about Port Join. They accept me and they show me the love. And this is my way now of giving back to the community. So you got a lot of youths in the area that got the talent, but they just need the platform to showcase the talent. You understand? Like, a lot of youth need ear plays and all them things, but they don't have a platform for record, for to get the message out there, get the music out there. And this is where Bobby Kush Entertainment come in place. So it's not just for West Side. It's a worldwide thing, it's an international thing, both locally and international.
And in business, there is something saying, competition brings out the best in you. There are other producers, there are other music labels doing it. But what makes us different? We are a package. We are entertainers by keeping events. We are event planners. Bobby Kush is a DJ. He have a voice. We have a marketing company with consultants and great people in marketing so that we could market artists, market the music. We have dedicated workers, disciplined people, and that's what makes us different. So our production, we're able to stand out above the odds because of our business structure. In any business, for it to be strong, it comes back to the foundation, which is the structure. And Bobby Kush Entertainment have a strong structure because we're not going to stop, despite of the challenges, because our motto is never stop, never flop.
They have a lot of artists, they got the talent, but they just don't know how to get the music to the highest level. So we're taking it from the idea, recording it, mixing, master, to the chart. So it's not just, you're not going to stop a radio, right? Because I found out that a lot of artists believe that, once my song I play on radio, that is it. Come on, you need to get money. So we make sure so you get full publishing, distribution. When your songs get played on YouTube or whatever you play, you get it back. So it's not just a thing where you come and sing and you only get fame and name. You're supposed to can put on food on your daughter or your son pocket. You know what I mean? Put on food on the table. So that's just it. As we say now, I always tell people, once you believe, you have faith, you must achieve something in life. Just never stop, never flop, brother.
When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to the newsroom, now for a look at what's happening in sport. Cricket West Indies officials currently in Bangladesh to inspect the biosecurity plans and health protocols in the country ahead of a proposed tour next month are very impressed with the concise and tight arrangements. The three-format tour could yet be shortened, but question marks hanging over it might have been dispelled for the time being. Avinash Ramzan reports.
Dr. Akshay Mansingh, the CWI director, and security manager Paul Slow arrived in Dhaka on November 28 and conducted a survey of facilities in Dhaka and Chattogram, including at airports, hotels, stadia, practice facilities and hospitals over the past few days. They will now report their observations to the CWI Board of Directors, who will then make a decision on the tour. Dr. Mansingh, speaking at a media interaction, said the protocols described to them by the Bangladesh Cricket Board officials were very well thought out. He said, and I quote, "The fact that there have been 3 competitions prior to our coming and 1 going on now, obviously they are well practiced. We are very happy with what we saw in Dhaka and Chattogram. The facilities are excellent. The COVID protocols are concise and tight. The national approach, both in the hotels and hospitals that we visited, comply with all international standards recommended for COVID-19. From a medical point of view, we are very happy and we now have to present our findings to the Board of Directors of CWI. I'm very confident what we saw is probably as good an arrangement as you can have anywhere in the world." End quote. Dr. Mansingh said that the tour dates haven't been confirmed mainly because of the quarantine protocols that the West Indies team would have to adhere to before and after arriving in Bangladesh. He said, and I quote, "According to COVID protocols, there will be at least 7 days where we have to make sure we are not contaminating Bangladesh. So we have to make sure we are in quarantine. It is not just days, but negative tests as well. There have to be at least 1 negative test before coming and 3 negative tests while in Bangladesh. That period is usually 7 days, and that's why the exact dates have to be worked out now." End quote. Bangladesh hasn't hosted any international cricket during the pandemic, with Australia and New Zealand having postponed their tours scheduled for June and August. Bangladesh also haven't toured any country, having come close to going to Sri Lanka before that tour was called off in September. We tell you now that another David and Goliath battle will start in Test cricket as the number 8 ranked West Indies face number 2 New Zealand in 2 Test matches, the first of which starts on Wednesday evening Caribbean time in Hamilton. Given the West Indies' poor performances on previous tours, Captain Jason Holder wants this series to be the opposite.
New Zealand has been a solid fortress. West Indies has not won a Test series or a Test match since 1995 in New Zealand. Their best result since has been a drawn series where they drew both of the matches on the 2009 tour, while on the last tour in 2017 they lost both tests. New Zealand have not lost at home since South Africa defeated them 1-0 in the 3 tests on the 2016 tour. They have gone on to host West Indies, England, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and of recent India, all of whom they have won series. Test captain Jason Holder, speaking on the eve of the contest, indicated the team is building in the right direction and want to make amends for the past failures against the Black Caps.
Yeah, I think we're in with a really good chance. Cricket is played on the day. We've really beaten a lot of top sides in the last couple of years as well too. And I think this side has been building, heading in the right direction. So for me, this tour is really important. The last time we came here, I think we were pretty much outplayed. But it's pretty much the same guys that we've had, for the last couple of years. So a lot of these guys are familiar with the conditions now, and would like to make amends for the last time's performance. So more or less, I think we stand a really good chance, but we just need to be disciplined and execute our plans.
The Caribbean side should enter this first test confident from the 2 practice matches, as they both occupied the crease and some batsmen went on to score hundreds. Opener Craig Brathwaite made his highest first-class score, 246, against New Zealand A. On the last tour, Brathwaite was West Indies' highest runs getter, scoring 201 runs from 4 innings at an average of just over 50, and had a highest score of 9-1. Darren Bravo, whose highest test score of 218 came on the 2013 tour to New Zealand, got 1 century and fell 7 short in a warm-up match.
Yeah, it's really good to see the batsmen spend some time in the middle. I think any batter would always boast of time spent in the middle, and regardless of the conditions, the wicket was pretty placid and quite good for batting. But you still have to go out there and do the job and spend the time in the centre. So it was really good to see people like Craig get scores, Darren Bravo get scores, Brooks got a score, Jermaine, and mainly all of our top 6 batters got starts. And some of them really converted the starts into something really big. So positive signs going into the test match. But again, it's a totally different battlefield, when the game starts tomorrow. But I'm really confident the guys can transcend some of those performances onto the test match field.
The number 1 ranked test all-rounder was not worried about the bowlers not finding great success in the 2 matches, noting they showcase discipline and they are experienced enough to know what to do on the batting-friendly pitches. Holder did not say what his playing 11 would be, continuing his trend of performing such only in the morning of the match, but did say history has proven that the venue will be a tough toil for bowlers. New Zealand will be missing the service experienced wicketkeeper batsman B.J. Watling due to hamstring injury, which allows a debut for opener Will Young, while Tom Blundell will take up the gloves. The match starts at 18 hours Eastern Caribbean time. New Zealand Test squad reads Kane Williamson captain, Tom Blundell wicketkeeper, Trent Bolt, Darryl Mitchell, Kyle Jamieson, Tom Layton, Henry Nichols, Ajaz Patel, Tim Saudi, Ross Taylor, Neil Wagner, B.J. Watling, William Young, and Mitchell Stanton. The West Indies Test squad reads Jason Holder captain, Jermaine Blackwood, Craig Brathwaite, Darren Bravo, Shamar Brooks, John Campbell, Roston Chase, vice captain, Raheem Cornwall, Shane Dowrich, Shannon Gabriel, Chairman Hetmeyer, Chimar Hola, Alzari Joseph, Kimar Roach, and Kimo Paul. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
The Guyana Olympic Association will host a webinar on December 9 themed Maximizing Media, a Transformative Approach for Sportsmen and Women. According to the GOA President, K.A. Jumanyasin, it is about helping athletes and coaches to understand and better their relationship with the media.
That is to be able to bring our athletes, basically, and the coaches, of the importance of the media and the different forms in the media. Because a lot of times the media is not used correctly. And so we hope to be able to give them an insight of the different forms of the media, what to do, what not to do. And we have Mr. Jackman will be involved, Mr. Raul Tony, Mr. Godfrey Monroe, and Alien Pompey. Alien will be able to give her experience. As you know, she is an athlete, an Olympian. She is now the organizer of the Alien Pompey. She is now the chairman of the Athletes Commission for the Pan-American Sports. And so she will be able to bring the perspective of how she has moved from an athlete to be an organizer and also the chairman of the Athletes Commission. I think it should be very beneficial to us all, and I hope persons will be able to register. We could take up to 500 persons, so please register.
The panelists are Kalam Yuman Yassin, President of the Guyana Olympic Association and Executive Member of the Pan American Sports Organization, Alien Pompey, Pan Am Athletes Commission President, Commonwealth Gold Medalist, Olympian, Direct Athletics Coach Program at St. John's University in the USA, Raul Tony, former junior national athlete, media personality and sport journalist, and Ishaka Roger Jackman, social media consultant and ICT manager. The moderator will be Godfrey Monroe, the president of the Guyana Table Tennis Association and vice president of the Guyana Olympic Association. The panelists will provide key information in understanding and navigating the media landscape, use of key step approaches and tools in maximizing one's sport experience and engagement with the media. A certificate and t-shirt will be provided to persons who participate in the webinar. It is scheduled for 19 hours. In October 2019, the GO had organized a meeting with local media to get their input on issues surrounding sport in Guyana. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Guyana's top female badminton player Priyana Ramdani continues to make progress in her athletic and academic pursuits in Canada. The badminton standout, who is on scholarship at Olds College, recently copped 2 awards for the activity year 2019-2020. Priyana was bestowed with the Canadian College Athletics Association's National Scholar Award in recognition of her excellence in academics and athletics, and the Alberta College's Athletic Conference's Academic Athletic Award in recognition of a high standard of academic achievement combined with an extraordinary level of participation in post-secondary athletics. In an invited comment, Priyana told Newsroom Sport that she was amazed by the recognition, especially as it came during her first year in college. And finally, India ended their one-day series in Australia on a high as they claimed a 13-run win in Canberra. Ravindra Jadeja, who made 66, joined Hardik Pandya, who slammed 92 with India on 152 for 5 with 18 overs left, and they finished unbeaten, taking the tourists' score to 302 for 5. Opener Aaron Fitch hit 75 for Australia before Glenn Maxwell added 59. But the hosts struggled after losing Maxwell in the 45th over on 268 for 7, and they were bowled out for 289 with 3 balls left at the Manuko Oval. Maxwell's dismissal sparked a run of 3 wickets for 12 runs as Shardul Thakur finished with figures of 3 for 51, while Jasprit Bumrah and Tangarasu Natarajan claimed 2 wickets apiece. Australia win the series 2-1 before the two sides play 3 T20s and 4 test matches. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. My name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching.